All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Golfers Anonymous podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Noah. And if this is your first time joining us on the show, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what you can expect, what we typically do here. So the reason I started the show in the first place was essentially that whenever I was out at a bar, any type of social gathering, a dinner, and I found one person that played golf, I found that we automatically had endless things in common, had so many things to talk about, favorite courses, memories, clubs, whatever it was. You had a friend for the night. Maybe you had someone you could play golf with in the future, maybe a friend going forward. So I just thought that was something really unique to golf because people don't just play golf. In many ways, they're addicted to this sport, and it really consumes a lot of at least my waking thoughts throughout the day. So yeah, I just started, doing this show so I could interview people about how they got involved in the game and why they love golf so much. My guest this week, Addie, excited to bring you on the show. Typically how I have folks introduce themselves is we'll do your name, how long you've been playing golf, and then the tough one is usually current handicap.
Oof. Okay. Okay. Well, we can start off easy. I'm Addie. I am a golf writer, but also just a golf lover. I currently am the travel and lifestyle editor for a little company called Skratch. We are some new kids on the block, but I'm very excited to be a part of the cool team that we are building. God, I've been in golf. I'm 25. I started playing golf when I was 2. So, most of my life, my dad was a really big golfer. So I had no choice. Like there was really no other option. And then to be honest, I have no idea what my current handicap is. I stopped keeping a handicap when I was about 16, 17, when I stopped playing competitively. But if I had to guess, probably still I'm like an 11 or 12. Like back in my peak, I was sitting at like a +5. So not horrible. Like actually, I will toot my own horn. I was a really good golfer back in the day,
Plus
but
five is no joke.
it was very serious. But now I barely play. I think I pick up a golf club maybe 3 times a year. That is a big thing that will be changing in 2025, though. So I'm excited to hopefully lower the handicap a bit.
All right. Well, Addie, welcome to the show. And you said you're not keeping a handicap at the moment. I think that's probably I think I should probably start doing that. I think the handicap is I asked the question to all my guests, so I guess I'm part of the problem. But I think, too much of at least my headspace is often focused on getting that number down instead of actually enjoying myself on the course.
I would agree. I think I did an ins and outs list, I think like most people do at the start of every year, and out handicaps. I think it's so limiting. I think instead of just like you said, enjoying yourself and being able to play freely, it's doesn't really matter. Like truly and genuinely, unless you're in a member guest or you actually are locked in some tournaments, don't even. It's fun. Golf is meant to be enjoyed. Enjoy it.
Yeah, 100%. You heard it here first. Handicaps are out in 2025 for anyone listening to this. But typically, where I start off with folks that come on the show is just tell me, the first time you picked up a club. What did that look like when you first got into the game? I know you said it was at 2 years old, so I don't know if you can remember that time. But tell me what it looked like when you first got into the game.
Oh God. Yeah, I was very, very young. Kind of to paint the scene, my dad was a huge golfer. And I think he picked up the game later in life, and I think was really inspired by Tiger's kind of coming up story in the late '90s, early 2000s, and really when he hit the scene hard. So my dad was kind of right there, lock and step with that. And so I was thankfully not a 2000s baby. So I had a little bit of space in between that. So by the time I was able to really walk and kind of become a little person, my dad was like, yeah, we have to get a stick in her hand for sure. And so I do remember, I don't have any more pictures, but my ever first golf club, my dad had cut down his old 7-iron and spray painted it bright pink for me. And that was my first golf club.
That's awesome.
No, yeah, I wish we still had it. I wish we had more pictures, but I do not necessarily remember, but I do. My dad told that story, I mean, a million times. So that's what golf looked like for me. It was, barely like talking, but knowing how to at least like hold a golf club.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know when you, I guess, caught the golf bug, or did you love playing right from the jump?
I think so my brother also is a golfer, and we have a 7 year age gap. So kind of anything he did, I wanted to do. And I think around the time I was 6 or 7, he would be almost like middle school, high school. So he was like, I really want to get good at golf. So then our parents enrolled us in our first tee, like local first tee chapter. So I want to say I remember very vividly my 7th birthday. It was my last soccer game that I ever wanted to play because it's like we did all the sports. I just remember telling my mom, I like my birthday wish, I don't want to play soccer anymore. I only want to play golf. And like, I want new golf clubs. And so my parents made it happen. They were like, okay, no more soccer, golf it is, but like you're going to need something else to do. Because for us in Virginia, golf was only a fall sport. So they were like, springtime, figure something out. But yeah, I think golf bug was pretty early. I think like 6 or 7, I was locked into like my first, like, I guess golf lessons, but they were through the first tee. And then I think within a couple months, I was playing in like tournaments and competitions too. So that was really cool.
Got it. So I know you were a pretty good player. What did the competitive world look like for you? Did you play in high school? Like tell me what that trajectory was like in the
Yeah,
competitive space.
so it started off as just like tournaments at our first tee, like playing that. We had like our facility was really cool. We had a par 3 court. So we had a full 18 holes, and then we also had a little par 3 loop. And so a lot of our early tournaments was just like we would play that loop over and over and over again. And basically just like keep like double par, like max score, just like kind of keep things going and keep us like actually interested in like not killing our spirit because we can't hit the ball more than 100 yards, if that.
Right.
So for the first, I'd say year was like a lot of just those like local like first tee tournaments. And then we have a Virginia State Golf Association, like most states have a golf association. So my dad enrolled me into the VSGA stuff. So then I got into that little cycle of tournaments. Same thing, like little 9 holers, but really like that's where I think I fell in love and like got to meet like my friends who were the same people that I played in middle school, high school. Those girls all went off and played in college. I did not. But pretty much once I started playing in tournaments at 7, like it was full court press until I was 17, a senior in high school. And got to do some really cool stuff. Like I remember my sophomore year of high school, I got to play in an international tournament in Australia for like, I
Wow.
was there for like 3 weeks, but only had to compete for like 3 days. So I kind of got really, really lucky. And that was probably the biggest, like, that's international stage. I think I competed against 85 other golfers from like 20 different countries. Came in fourth, so I was super, super stoked about that. And like had a personal best. Like I think I shot 73, it was 73, 73, 70. Like I kind of went kind of like dumb. And
Yeah,
that was really
that's some golf.
right. And so, and then like these girls there's 2 girls from Singapore and a girl from New Taipei who like, that was the podium. And the girl from New Taipei, I think she was 3 years younger than me and like straight up like beat my ass. Like I played with her. I think she shot like 66, 67, just like nuts. I'm like, you know what? You're going to be unreal. And I'm pretty sure she's on the Epsom tour like now.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I think her name's Amanda Tan. Really just solid person, like great girl, even better athlete. Like can't be mad that someone so cool like beat me. But I just remember being so humbled, but also like I just had like a personal best and like the biggest tournament of my life. That was the highlight. I would say like the highlight of my junior golf career. Like there were AJGAs in there, some hurricane stuff, like Peggy Kurt Bell tour. Like I did all of the junior golf circuit, but that's the one that sticks out the most to me, honestly.
Do you remember what the course was down in Australia? I'm just curious because Australia is definitely on my bucket
Oh,
list to get over there
God.
at some point.
I know. So we were in Lake Macquarie, Australia, which is like 4 hours south of Sydney.
Okay.
I literally just saw the ball marker that I bought from the pro shop when I was home for when like the holidays. Oh, it's gonna bug me. I'm gonna know, like, I'm gonna look it up as soon as we get off of here. But like, I cannot. I know it was Lake something. I want to say it starts with a W, but honestly, I will say, kind of gave Muni vibes. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was no, like, it wasn't anything super super special, but I do remember just being like, I'm in Australia. This is really, really cool. It's also really hot. I remember on the front nine, I started putting one handed because it's like the bugs and everything are crazy. And so one of the girls, there was some like random guy walking with us. I don't know if he was like a tournament official. I don't know who he was. But he was like, "Oh, like you nailed the Australian wave." And I'm like, "How was that?" And he's like, "No, like when you gotta like wave the bugs off of you, like that's what that is." But that's, yeah, I can't remember the golf course, but that's golfing in Australia is, I mean, it should be on everyone's bucket list. It's really cool.
Yeah, I had one of my previous guests was someone from Melbourne, and like
Mm,
after talking to him for an hour, I was like, I want to go to Australia like right now. How much is the flight? Like
yeah,
what's the soonest I can get down there?
you have to. Like, I still think about it. Like, like this was a trip I took 11 years ago, but like it's still one of those things that it's in the forefront of my mind at all times, just because it's like whoever thinks like go to Australia and play golf, and like I got to do it as a teenager. So yeah, like you should go 100%.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I know you said you obviously played a ton when you were a kid through high school, and then now you said you only play 3 to 4 rounds a year. You're getting back into it in 2025. You are in New York. New York is notoriously has lots of great golf, but it's not a secret that it's challenging to play in New York. Like how do you foresee your golf expeditions living in New York City? I guess tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, I think a lot of it is a screen. Like I'll be the first to admit, I think I definitely, and we're really lucky. Like in the golf sim world in New York is deep. We have 5 irons everywhere. There are also a few um, just other sim golf spots in the city, like each like 5 boroughs across Jersey. So I'm really interested to kind of grow and branch out a little bit in that regard. But I am like a true like I love grass. Like I love like golf. Like I the turf is fun and like it'll do what it needs to do while it's 10 degrees
Scratches the
outside.
temporary itch.
Exactly. But I will say I've played Bethpage red quite a few times, black only once, and probably will only ever be once. That was not fun for me. I had a great time, but like that was I don't have to do that again. I could say that I played Bethpage Black. I've also like gone up north like a couple hours outside the city, but I do think that's kind of the thing is like New York is to be a golfer in New York, you have to be committed to the bit. Like I think these are the most passionate golfers I've ever met in my life because it's not an easy feat. It's getting on the subway or hopping in an Uber for an hour, clubs in tow. It's an all day commitment. Whereas, like, you know, back home in Virginia, I live in the neighbor. Like, I don't live on a golf course, but I live a cute little 2 minute walk from a golf course. Like, it's more accessible, and I think I take definitely took it for granted. But being here, it's like you have to be committed, and I think I have. I don't know. I have the tools necessary. It's just a matter of like, okay, I need to go and just like go and keep my no, kind of just keep my skills up. Like I think I have a lot of shoots and a lot of stuff coming up, and it's like I cannot embarrass myself in front of people. Like I can't let I my inner perfectionist. I'm like I cannot embarrass myself. Like I selfishly like need to go look good.
Yeah, I'm with you. New York definitely it weeds out like the people who like aren't gonna try real hard to get out there pretty quick. Like when I was living down in Brooklyn for a little bit, you're talking about taking 2 trains, then jumping on like whatever the train is. I forget what it is that goes out to Jersey, like or heading out to Long Island. But it's part of the experience. I think that's what's so fun about golf is that like you would never take 2 trains over the course of 2 hours with a 40-pound bag on your arm if it weren't for golf. Like it takes
Yeah.
you to doing these very strange things, and it's just to go out on the course for 2 to 4 hours, whatever it is.
It's sick. Like you're a true sicko, but it's also like I've had those interactions on the subway of people like, you play golf? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And it's really fun. And like, then it's a whole thing of like, well, how'd you get into it? And what do you do now? And like, well, where are you going? And so I really enjoy it. I think it's one of those things about like New York is like a simulation. Like it really is that. It's like people, you never know what you're going to get. And I think I have, I've had some really fun, like, just conversations with people being like, wow, like you're going to go do that. And I'm like, yeah. And it's fun. And like, you should do it too.
So let's switch slightly now to, I guess, your professional career in golf. Like, tell me about how you kind of started down this path of getting into the golf media space.
Super, it's really untraditional. Like, I didn't go to school for journalism. I've always, like, truthfully and honestly, so I stopped playing golf my senior year of high school. Kind of made up my mind like I was over the competitive golf the summer before, and my parents hated that so much, naturally. But I just knew it wasn't. I just knew college golf wasn't for me. I think in talking to my friends, and these are the same people that I grew up with, like at the first tee, I was in girls golf. Like these are all same characters from 7, 10 years later. Now we're 17, about to go embark on another chapter. And the way that a lot of them talked about how excited they were about college golf, I just did not feel that way. I'm like, I actually really could care less, like couldn't care less. And I kind of knew, it was like, wow, okay, I feel really strongly about not doing this thing. So now what? Went to college. I went to Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. It was the best 4 years of my life. I didn't play golf. Didn't even think about picking up a golf club, and like genuinely had formulated a hatred of golf at some point from 15 to 17. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Like I think hating the thing that you've always done and you've always really loved is like really hard to deal with. And those are like really big feelings that I had to figure out pretty early on, I think, and experiencing burnout. But like burnout wasn't a thing at the time. Like it felt
Right.
like, how could a teenager experience burnout? But it's like, well, I do, because I was doing it at such a high level. And I don't think I talk about that enough. And like a lot of even like my close friends today, like don't really understand, like golf was everything to me. It always kind of has been. So to have to walk away from that was really hard. So college, I did pretty much everything that I didn't get to do, because I'm like, okay, I'm not an athlete anymore. I get to just like focus on school. And I'm forced to make friends who don't know about golf, who don't care about golf, like will never be golfers. I studied psychology until like 6 weeks before I graduated, thought I was going to be a clinical psychologist, and then did not get into grad school. So that was like really shocking. And a really like another pivotal moment in my life of like, okay, well, now what? And that moment, so this is what, like March or April of 2021, graduated in May of 2021. And I'm sitting with my mom and my brother in tears, like, what am I going to do? I just worked so hard. And now I'm like, I'm a psych major. I'm going to need to go to grad school. And my mom's like, no, you don't. Like, you can figure it out. And my brother stayed in golf too. So he grew up playing golf. He's a teaching professional in Virginia, and is personally one of my favorites, and completely biased opinion, but like I think he's one of the best in the business. And so he kind of looked at me and was like, hey, come work for me. Like I know you don't really love the golfy stuff, but you like social media. You have a good knack for it. Like I need kind of help with like filming content, editing content, like kind of we'll figure it out. So that's what I did. I graduated. I finished my time with my friends at school, enjoyed my last month or so of college. And then as soon as I got back home, my brother was like, all right, it's time to lock in and like, let's change lives. And I'm like, all right, great, let's do it. So he started a golf academy in Richmond, Virginia. And basically on the same principles of like, we grew up in the first two program, we know these core values of golf, we understand the traditions of golf, but we also understand that in order to keep golf thriving, we have to appeal to kids who aren't the golf sickos. We have to keep it way more fun and have gamification elements to it and like
Right.
give kids the incentive to want to win, but like, and like learning golf is like the byproduct of that. So like really creating these super elaborate games, and like just like teaching kids to just like have fun and be disconnected from a phone for once in their lives. And that was really special, like to bond with a kid over, I don't know, like anything is really cool. And to like watch the process of a tiny human like figure themselves out, figure out what like the mechanics of their body, to also like build relationships with other kids and like witness that in real time was really, really special. And I promise you I'm getting to the golf media part. So that was really my like reintroduction back into golf. Like I had walked away from it completely, from 2017 to really like 2021. So I was like, there's no golf really happening in my life. I'm not even watching it. Like, there's nothing going on there. So my brother was like, hey, you got to dive back in because what else do you know? I'm like, that's a great point. I know nothing. So that end of that summer, so still 2021, I get a DM on Instagram from a woman named Taylor Olson Freed who has this brand called Drawn Fade. And Drawn Fade is women owned. It's for women, by women. And the goal is to really just like create affordable golf apparel for those in golf who like don't want to wear like bright pink and like ruffles. And it's like very like neutral and just like golf stuff that like you could wear, but it's like you can also it really kind of was my foray into like what golf apparel on and off the course could be. And she had a blog page attached to her site and all of her commerce and was like, you have a really cool, unique experience as a woman of color in the golf space. You also are a psych major. I think you can do a lot of really cool things and bringing in this idea of like, what is representation in golf and why does it matter? Because we're also coming off of 2020 where like the world exploded and all of this diversity and inclusion conversations, like they're happening in real time. So it was really cool. Taylor basically gave me the keys to her community page and was like, write some stuff. And I'm like, I've never written for like not a grade. Like, what does that look like? Yeah, I think it was a really organic process. And she really helped me kind of find my, early on, like helped me find my voice and what I wanted to write about. And my experiences and just like growing up in golf. And, you know, I think being one of few, I think not only just as a woman, but also like as a person of color. So that was really, really cool to have that opportunity. And then kind of snowballed. Like I met Taylor, I met another woman, Sarah, who now works for the LPGA. Sarah left a job. So then I interviewed for that job at a small newsletter called the Nine newsletter. And I took over all of their golf coverage. And then from there, I got in contact with some folks at Golf Digest, started freelancing at Golf Digest. And then Sarah is coming back into my life and she's like, hey, we need freelancers at the LPGA. So then started freelancing for the LPGA. And then over the past couple of years, it was just like building a resume of like all of these really cool opportunities. And I'm covering women's golf mainly, but also golf style. And that's what I was mainly doing at Golf Digest. And then flash forward to early 2024, I met my now boss at Skratch, Ben Boscovich, and he was like, hey, you're cool and like you have something. And we're gonna be in touch. And so then summer of 2024, he's like, I have a thing. And I want you to come do this thing with me. So then kind of like in the recent like last 6 months of my life, it's kind of been like, well, what do you want to do with golf? And I'm like, well, everything. Like genuinely, like I think I've known golf my entire life and I've known it from a player. I've known it from being kind of a pseudo swing coach and like being around my brother and learning all of those things. I know it from a consumer. I know it from producing content and helping kind of put that out, but also And then now I'm like in this fourth phase, I guess, is like as a writer. And it's everything to me. So I kind of fell into it, and I'm really glad that I leaned in because I had no idea what I was doing. I wouldn't even call myself a journalist. Like, I have a really hard time with that word because I'm actively learning. But yeah, it's been a really cool thing to kind of just build for myself and find ways to fall in love with golf all over again in a completely different way, and kind of get back to that like childlike love for the game that I had so long ago that I thought I'd lost forever. But it's like, no, like you just needed to figure it out and like needed to tweak what it looked like.
That's a really cool story, and I appreciate the depth you went into there, and you brought up something interesting that I think like you know you got asked like you asked yourself like what do you want to do with golf, and it's like everything. I think one of the coolest things about where golf is, and I've talked about this before on the pod, but it's like because golf has gotten so popular and there's so many new voices coming to golf, like there's so many ways to now fall in love with golf, right? Like you can be into excuse me, you can be into the PGA Tour and like pro golf, LPGA Tour, or you can be into the style and fashion side of it. You could be really into like the travel stuff that like No Laying Up does, or architecture with the fried egg. Like there's so many different angles that you can come at, or you could just love playing. Like there's way more people that play golf than actually follow pro golf in this country. So like you can just love going out for 9 holes with your pals or whatever it is. And I think the cool thing on top of that is that like now you have people in like the content space catering to every one of those groups, which is a really cool thing to see.
Totally. I mean, personally, I think golf's never been in a better spot. I think genuinely, we talk about it so much of like, growing the game. And that's just like a phrase that I've kind of like learned to like, I don't really love it anymore. But genuinely, I do think there's so many seats at the table now where there's something for everyone. And being someone who, again, like I've grown up around golf, and it's been my golf experience, I think, for so long was super, super traditional. And so I will always kind of have this really, and like I have to unlearn it too. It's like I was raised in a very specific way of like golf is this one thing and it's this playing, but it's also upholding tradition. And it's like, well, traditionally, golf was never really meant to include someone that looked like me. So, like, what does that mean? And so I think it's really, really cool to have just kind of all these different players now, and just like you can appreciate and take away whatever you want from golf, and that's how it should be. I think that's how most global sports are, where you don't have to be good at football to love football. You kind of attach on to that thing that you really, really love about it, and you run with it. I think it's the same thing for soccer, for basketball. I think it all kind of, it speaks to itself. And now that we have the style element coming in swinging for golf, which has been really cool to see and to cover, and I think it really helps. I mean, golf is already individualized, but I do think in a way it helps kind of uniform us at the same time, where it's like, when someone's wearing like something from Albon, and it's like, it's
Right.
kind of that cool thing of like, oh, like, that too. And it's like, if you see someone in public also wearing it, you're like, yeah, like that's cool. Those are the little moments that make it all worthwhile. And knowing that we're kind of building like, kind of like cult like favorites. And it's like, that's like cool. And like people are so weird about it now. And it's like, we get to all be excited about something, and like let people be excited about whatever it is that they choose. And there's no right or wrong way to enjoy golf. It's your way. And like that's a part of the experience, is figuring out how do you want to enjoy this? It's yours.
Yeah, 100%. And you bring up, you know, the style stuff, and golf clothing coming in swinging in 2024. What are some trends that you're loving in golf right now? Let's hear it.
Oof. Um God, that's really hard. I think I really like a specific thing that I really love. I personally won't wear because I just don't think it looks good on me. But like this resurgence of a rugby polo looks so good. Sugarloaf just came out with a really, really fire one that I'm obsessed with, and I've been debating on buying, but I'm like, I don't know. I just think like the boxy just doesn't really work for me. But like I see it on other people, and I'm like, yeah, like you look really good in that. I also really like, and have always been a fan of someone's ability to go like super streetwear and the clothes, but then the footwear is super traditional. I think like metalwood has always kind of been like right there with that, and I think that's always just been a really good look. Other trends, not so much that I'm seeing, but I do think we're moving away from the traditional golf color palette of like khaki, blue, green, white. Like I think we need more red. We need more like purples. Like I want like a cerulean blue in there. I think I need I need more brands to work on their color stories for sure. I think that's always exciting, a good way to spice up your look. Women's golf style for sure. That's really like my main vertical that I'm trying to own, and recognizing that it's been a lot of ugly stuff for so long, and like we're freeing ourselves like from that. And like I found this like god awful 18-inch khaki skirt my dad used to make me wear from Nike, and I'm like I could burn it, like truly. Like, and I probably should. Like I'm really glad that we're shortening some hemlines, and we're like really moving more, just more progressive with how we want to showcase our self-expression, because that's all style is. It's like it's just another version of how you get to present yourself into the world. And so I don't know, I think golf brands, whether if they're started by golfers or people who are just inspired by the game, let them, I think, is also my biggest like thing. It's like it's okay if someone isn't good at golf and wants to start a golf brand. Like it's okay. Like it's probably a good thing, and I think they have a different way of opening the rest of our eyes into something that might be a new thing for us. So I don't know. I think there are a lot of cool people who have a lot of innovative ideas, and I'm all for like being in New York. It's like I'm constantly like, wow, how can I elevate what I wear, but not necessarily buying more, but just like I see a person styling something that looked just like really cool. So how can I do that? So yeah, that's it. And I think lean into like wearing like stuff that's maybe not for golf and like wear it anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Like there's no
I
rules.
I hear you on that New York thing. When I was living there, it was like, oh my god, like I need to like look cooler. I was like, how can how can I start looking like these people walking up and down the streets? I need to up my game.
Straight up, like I literally bleached my hair. I was like, all right, I got to do something to make me seem like Brooklyn cool. Like I can't. And like I really was like, how do I make sure I look like Brooklyn cool and not like East Village cool? Like I think there's a very, and my gauge and like how cool do I look, or like which neighborhood am I getting compliments in? Because I think that really matters. Like that matters to me. If I'm like, if
Yeah.
someone's complimenting me in the financial district, oh. But like if I'm, I don't know, walking in Maria Hernandez Park, then like okay, like I'm open to that.
Something else you said about the colors. It's funny you bring that up. Like I this morning was just editing, the podcast that's going to go live tomorrow, and it was and it was with someone who runs like I don't know how to explain it. It's like a Instagram account, but like he just finds like vintage golf clothes from anywhere, and then he'll just post them and sell them on Instagram. And he brought up a point because I asked him a very similar question. It's like, what trends are you like looking forward to moving forward? And he was like, I just wish brands would get more creative with the colors. Like you look at some of this stuff that he picks up from like the 90s or even like the 80s, and you've got all kinds of different patterns, way brighter and like funkier colors. So he was like, yeah, I just wish we would see more of that. And it seems like we're kind of getting back to that in some ways.
We underestimate how much color really does matter to our memory. Like, and I think we see like the easiest example is obviously like Tiger and his red. Like, I think that's such a memorable, like visceral reaction that all of us have. It's like we know what that means. Like when you wear that specific shade of red on a Sunday, you know what's coming. And I think, and I think we can also associate with that Ricky and his like bright orange, like back in the day. And I think I don't know, there's just something to that of just like having some type of identifier that really it's like it's your way to own it. I think that's just that's that's fun. Like I think that's just really that's what we need more of. And I think we do sometimes really underestimate the power of color. And I think even like all black, like it doesn't have to be like the most inventive thing, but I think that people, really like this whole like clean girl, minimalistic, it fits for some, but I'm like, no, let's kind of lean into like more fun, whimsy, like colors that shouldn't even make sense on your mind, but like they do and it like works. Just have fun, just experiment.
Yeah, and you like talking about color, especially in golf, where a lot of that's pro golf, I should say. Like, a lot of these people kind of blend together. Like unless you're really in the weeds of it, like you're not gonna look up and down the leaderboard and pick someone out because of how they play golf. It's part of it is what they wear or how their swing looks. Like my girlfriend and I were watching TGL last week, and it was New York Golf Club. Ricky Fowler was out there, and my girlfriend was like, "Isn't he the guy who used to wear like orange all the time, or like something like that?"
Mm-hmm.
And like she barely watches golf, but like she remembered something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, the TGL of it all, I think those fits, I was just like, you're not even in like uniform. I don't know. Like, I just think that was my one thing that I was just looking at. It's like the team color and this idea of like team golf is really, really cool. But I think it's one of those things that was, I wish, and I think that would be my really like one of my only few notes is like moving forward. We have to kind of like get a uniform in there, get some type of like some identifying thing. I just it looks so drab. I'm like, okay, y'all have on khakis and blue, and like, all right, cool. Like, but
Yeah.
it could have been something more.
Yeah, like let's lose the sponsor patches for, for a little bit. I mean, it's funny. Like I thought the first match of TGL, and we can talk more about it. I thought it was really cool. But to your point, like
Yeah,
it's such a departure from normal golf. You're in a indoor facility strictly built for golf. It's like this unbelievable technological marvel, I guess. You're not playing. I mean, it's obviously still real golf, but it's very far from regular golf. All
hmm
the teams are based in different cities, but they're not actually based in every city. It's like it's
right,
so far from regular golf. Why wear the regular clothes? Send these guys out
right.
in something different. A lot of people, because I made a couple of videos about it, and a lot of people were saying that in the comments. Like, why are these guys wearing normal clothes? It makes no
Yeah.
sense.
When you're doing something so innovative and so progressive, like what TGL represents to me, and I think a lot of people have different feelings about it, but I will say, and like, yeah, we can get into it, but I will make this, I'll stake my claim is like, I'm very pro TGL. I think anytime golf wants to find a way to not necessarily like reinvent itself, but like have reimagined ways of how we present golf to the world, I'm all for it. Like, I think, why not? Like, I think lean, and like, if you're going to do it, okay, and it's here, lean into it. Like, why half ass it? It's been such a production. Go all in, like literally go big or go home. I don't know why we're here. So I think that's a building the camaraderie and like I think the community feel that they want it to have with these teams and like these random ass cities. It's like, okay, but like why like give us a reason to care. And it's like also you miss if you made like a really fire like bowling inspired polo, that's like such a miss on like merch. Like I we have to think harder. Like I think like there needs to be some type of I don't know. I think especially when you have fashion capitals like LA and New York represented into this. Like there's no way that you went
What,
and did,
Boston isn't a fashion capital? You don't think?
you know, it could be. I've actually never been to
Okay.
Boston. It could be. I mean, even like Atlanta, like I think Atlanta also gets like overlooked for just how much it does culturally. But just like there was something where I think it's just like we just needed a little extra thought in that or like but again, volume two, it could be completely different. But I think moving forward, that is something that I would like to see is just like let's have a little bit more something.
Yeah.
anything.
I think I think it's just cool from the. I mean, I was like a TGL hater when they first announced it. I was like, I mean, to be honest, I was like, I don't know how they're gonna pull this off. They're gonna build like a stadium. I was like, I don't know how they're gonna do it. And then everything leading up to it, like I was seeing these videos of the players in there hitting shots. I was like, oh my god, like this looks like pretty
Sick.
cool.
Yeah,
And then obviously night one was really well done considering it was just the first time. So I think it's like a really cool exercise in like seeing how something will evolve over time, because like golf doesn't really have a space where you can experiment like that. Like obviously Live launched and their whole thing was like, oh, we're gonna be golf but louder, it's gonna be more fun, and like kind of all they really did was play music and go to, I guess, more places around the world. And now TGL, you have this like, I don't even know, this like confined space where you truly can experiment with anything you really want, from the types of grass, the sand, how loud the players' voices are going to be on TV. Maybe you like do something with the fans. I don't know. They could do a lot with it. So I think it'll be really cool, and it's kind of on them now to really try and experiment and see what buttons they want to press.
I agree. I don't know. I think what really sticks out to me, and I've been feeling this way about golf in general, is I don't know how big of a Ted Lasso fan you are, but it
Love it.
always
Seen
reminds,
every
like,
episode several times.
exactly. And I think it's just Ted Lasso is just such a good metaphor for life. But what always sticks out to me is when he's playing darts and and he says the line of, if people were just a little bit more curious and less judgmental, how like much better the world would be. And I think that applies to golf so much in my mind of, I think we're too quick to say no and to like just write something out because it's like not what we're used to. And I'm also guilty of it too, is like TGL did not make any sense in my mind when it first was presented. I'm like, I don't know what this means. I don't know how this is going to work. But it wasn't so much like I'm going to hate it. I don't get it. And I think we don't allow ourselves to be comfortable with like not getting something. And we
Yeah.
automatically want to write it off, where it's like, this could be really cool, but like you're just not giving it a chance. And I think TGL is a perfect example of that. It's like, I think, what if, I don't know, 2, 3 years ago when it was first kind of being talked about, we all met it with a little bit more curiosity and less like, well, I don't understand it. Okay, like there's probably a lot you don't understand. And like that's the
Right.
part of like life and being a human. You're not going to understand everything the first time. And two, I think by now, I feel like we should all kind of know. And like, I don't know, this wasn't any of his own doing, but like Tiger Woods is like the guy, like he is he's here for everyone in
Right.
golf. I think no matter how much of a fan you are or not, but if he's a part of something, you have to know that he's probably going to give it a lot of thought, or like, he understands the game so much deeply than I think any of us could really ever even comprehend. And so I think with his name attached to something, it wasn't going to be bad. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't
There's a lot
imagine
of
a
smart people
world.
over there.
Yeah, like I just couldn't imagine a world with like where he's involved with something in the year of 2025 and it's not a good product, even if the golf itself is whatever. But I think the theatrics of it all was always going to be what it was, and we saw that. And so I think, getting back to your point, is it's a blank slate of what we can do. Like they've opened a whole new can of worms, and now I think it's on them, but it's also at like, I guess, like big golf to like really like grow what it could be. And I think the same, I really do hope it's not like another Live situation of like, all of these promises are made and it just falls a bit short. But we have to give Live credit. It opened doors, closed a few windows. Live did something. And we're here now. So I think we do have to kind of give them their credit where credit's due. It's like it introduced these new ideas. And I
Yep.
think anytime we have new ideas being presented to us, like why not just ask a little bit, like a few more questions instead of trying to write something off initially.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, if not for Live, we probably wouldn't have TGL, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of in somewhat of response to that. Like, they're doing this thing. What can we do with the existing PGA Tour players? Well, that's TGL. Now, I guess shifting just a little bit to close out, your time in golf. A question I like to ask is just, favorite golf course. It can be something you've played a lot, something you've played one time. Where is it?
Well, I think the first that came into my mind is Sabonic Golf Club out in the Hamptons. My brother actually interned there back in 2014, 2015. I can't remember. No, 2014. And I just remember being like the most magical place. Like I genuinely felt like I died and gone to heaven. Like it's, and I think you can say that about a lot of those courses out there. Like Shinnecock is out there, the National, but Sabonic
Shinnecock
just,
and Sabonic are like neighbors, right? They're like
yeah,
right
like
next to each other.
they're right next to each other. It's like really crazy. But it's not so much of like what it represents, because I think you can say that with any like golf course in an affluent area. But I think what Sabonic was to me, it just felt very open. Like everything felt from like the moment I got there, and it was like, yeah, like my brother worked there and was like a part of the family for like a summer. But it was just, I don't know, like the people, the caddies, just the way they all conducted themselves, like the head pro at the time, Jason, like everyone was just so like, this is the greatest place on earth. And like, I truly feel like we all believed it. And it's also just stunning. Like, I think the grass, like, I will say this now, but I like took my shoes off and played barefoot. I'm like, I have never touched grass that felt like this before. Like, it was so, I just remember having like a full sensory kind of experience there. Like, it was not only beautiful, but I just remember the sound of the ocean. I remember the sound of how my golf club would make contact with the ground, making contact with the ball. Like everything was just very, very crisp and sharp. And I think Sabonic's just dreamy. And I'm really, really glad that I got the opportunity to play it a couple of times. But I remember that first time, and like doing that with my brother was also really cool. But yeah, it's a dreamy place.
Yeah, there's something special in golf when you have the combination of like being on the water and, like you said, that feeling of like really good turf, because like, if you're close to the water, you're probably playing off of sand. Like I had a very similar feeling at Chambers Bay. Obviously not in the
Mm-hmm.
ocean, it's on the Puget Sound in Seattle, but like they like when you really catch the ball good, like it sounds slightly different because of how this. I'm not a scientist, but I imagine it's how like the water impacts the sound of it or something. I don't know. That could be totally
Something.
made up, but it's something where it's like you kind of look at whoever you're playing with, like that sounded a little different, or you're like talking about the ground. So I could definitely see that. I mean, those places out on Long Island are, definitely top of the bucket list. Unbelievable scenery. I love when the U.S.
The,
Open goes out to Shinnecock. That's one of my favorite places to watch on TV.
yeah, I think Shinnecock is it's insane. And then I think the year before I got to play Sabonic, the women had their US Open out there in 2013. And I think that was like Nelly Corda's like major debut. So it's just like a lot of cool history at all of those courses too. But yeah, I think again, it all comes back to New York golf. It's a magical place. And that sounds so like whatever, but then also like I do have to give some love to my good old par 3 course back at the first tee. Like I think I that's where you like the place you learn to play the game will always have a special place in your heart. And I think that also goes back to our conversation of there's something in golf that can serve everybody. I think I've had the privilege of playing Pebble, like I've had Sabonic, like I've had Shinnecock, like I've had these really massive courses, but at the same time, a local first tee is also just as good. And it's like I enjoy
Yeah.
myself just as much, and it's still those same memories. And I probably enjoy myself a little bit more on those courses because I'm actually able to like play well and the
Yeah.
greens aren't rolling like a 14. And yeah, but it's cool that we get to experience and have both. And that's what's really, really special.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like if you told me like Noah, you can teleport to anywhere right now. Like I'm going to Royal Melbourne, but like if you're telling me like for my last round ever, I'm probably going to like this place, which is like the course I just grew up playing. It's like one of our munis here in Boston, so I definitely
Exactly.
feel that. So that's favorite golf course, and then let's do favorite golfer.
Ooh. Um, wow. I think the traditional answer, I think a lot of people would give is Tiger. Like I grew up watching him play. He was my introduction into pro golf, and I think I remember just having those moments with like my dad and my brother, and like going to cookouts around the U.S. Open and like Father's Day, and like watching it on the TV, and like everyone's like all the dads are grilling, like but like my brother and I are like right there in front of the TV, like just jaws dropped at just his magic. But I will say I also have another golf superhero, Larry Sugg, who was, I want to say, the third Black woman to ever play on the LPGA Tour. And she's also from the town I grew up in. So she's also a Richmond, Virginia
Amazing.
girl. And I got the chance to interview her last year. So that was really, really cool. And to have that experience and to actually know that her and my dad were friends, which was really cool. And so she got to share some memories that my dad passed away a few years ago. So it was really cool to just like hear those memories from her and her to tell like stories about the conversations that they had. So she's always been someone that I've heard of, and she's kind of like a living legend, but it's cool to actually like meet one of your heroes, and like she also has this like personal connection to you. And just like a stick, like she like single-handedly is the reason why like UCLA won their national championship title in like 1991. So she's just a dog. Anytime you can just like, she's not like super well known, which is like mind blowing to me, but it's like anytime you get to like put someone on and being like, hey, like this is, she's a literally a living legend. I think anytime you
Yeah.
get to make history, like being one of few on the pro circuit to ever to represent a whole community or a whole demographic is really cool. But Larry is, she's an icon. She's a legend. And anyone listening, I hope like please Google her Larry Sugg 2Gs in like Spider-Man, because there's a certain outfit that she wore, and it's like honestly the best golf like style moment of all time. I'm not kidding. Like she's like that. She's a true diva.
All right, I'll have to give that. You said in Spider Man.
No, yeah, like literally just type in Larissa like Spider-Man. It's so good.
All right, I'm gonna have to give that a search. But yeah, that
Yeah.
that that's awesome. Getting to meet someone, who's done so much for the game and like is I mean I'm trying to think like if I don't think I've ever met someone who's like my favorite person in anything. So getting to do that is a really cool experience. And then I got two more questions for you. My
Okay.
first one is what event are you looking forward to most in
Ooh.
2025? Golf event, I'll say. Obviously.
Ooh. Ooh, that's really fun. I guess I'll say I got to experience my first Solheim Cup last year. So I guess I'll say my first getting to experience my first Ryder Cup this year will be really, really cool. Um I hope. I'm hoping like I'm gonna send this to my bosses actually, like get me out there. At Bethpage will be really, really cool. I'm like 90% sure I'm going, but that'll be super cool just to see like what that whole experience is like in front of a New York crowd. Like I hear everyone who's talking about it, it feels like really, really big. And also I'm excited to see Keegan. I think he's going to be a better captain than I think a lot of us will anticipate him being. So yeah, I think Ryder Cup has to be up there for me. Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah, I mean you rarely get big just because like so many of these great golf courses are kind of in random places. You rarely get like a big golf event truly so close to like an actual sports capital in the United
Right.
States. So I think it's going to be really cool because of that. You brought up Keegan. Keegan's one of my favorite players, but now we have Mustache Keegan, so that's a whole nother level. He's coming out of the gates, two top tens in the stash. So yeah, the Ryder Cup. That's gonna be something. It's hopefully it
Yeah.
it goes well, but I think that'll really be something. The
I need
train ride to and from Long Island will be a scene.
I am where I am in Brooklyn. I'm like a good 45 to 50 minutes from like by car from Bethpage like State Park. And that's on a good day. Like decent traffic, nothing crazy. I cannot imagine and I'm already starting to like emotionally and mentally prepare myself for just anxiety. Like and I'm not really an anxious person, but just like the whole, I don't know, like it just something about driving in New York, being driven in New York, it is probably top 5 worst experiences as a human being you can have. There's no good way to get to Bethpage. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I think I'm really hoping I get there like one day and then I get to enjoy it from like my home.
Yeah, because that's the thing with the Ryder Cup.
Like,
Obviously, it's I've never been to a team event like that, and I'm sure it's great to experience once or twice. But I think it was like Andy from the Fried Egg saying like the best way to watch those events is from your couch. Like there's only 4 holes of golf going on at any one time. I guess 12 for the singles day, but it's like crammed. Everybody's trying to see the same guys, or it's just very log jammed. It's definitely something to experience once or twice. I mean, granted, I've never been. I'm sure if I went, I'd be like, I need to go every time.
I will say, like, Solheim was really cool. And I think just a different experience. Like, I think, and like that was like right outside of DC, so that's a different crowd. But I don't know. It was jarring because I think I've done like doing like golf media and like doing on ground coverage of like other events. I'm like, wow, it really is like only these like 4 holes. And you have to kind of be very strategic in where you post up. And that golf course, Robert Trent Jones Golf Club in Northern Virginia, is like the worst. It's one of those courses that like it goes out and it never comes back in.
It looked like it was really hard to get around on
Yeah,
TV.
it sucked. Like it sucked. And so I was there the whole week. And so I got to like scout like where I wanted to be very strategically. And that 15th hole, and like thank God, because I think like a couple of players didn't even make it to like the 17th hole. Like they're like, oh, I didn't even know this was over here. And I'm like, yeah, because you just like beat somebody's ass. Like you're that like you are 6 up. Like, yeah, like stop it. I'm trying to like see more golf. But yeah, it is very like shocking because I'm like, oh, this is it. Like this is just you're here and you see these like handful of golf shots and like now what?
Well, that's the thing that about Bethpage. Like the last, I mean, I've played it twice. I'm lucky enough to have played it twice, and like the last 4 holes are so awesome. Like the like by I mean not by I mean all the holes are great out there, but the last 4 holes are great, and there's so much room to put uh grandstands, like, and because that's what they've done for like the PGA, the US Open. So it's going to be such a bummer if matches are ending. I mean, I don't think you'll get a ton ending before the 15th hole, but you got to at least get to 17.
Right.
That par 3 is awesome, and then obviously 18 is really cool as well.
As a walking it as like and you're playing it sucked. That was like brutal and I'm like, ooh, okay. And like Bethpage is like I luckily had a caddy, but it just that walk up that last few stretcher holes is like really nuts. But you're right, it is a spectacle, and it's like you if you're lucky enough to see it, it's like yeah, just get there, be close, be by the green as much as you can. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's all I will say is I hated walking it. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, this is a like this is an
it's a
actually
tough
like
walk.
it's a nightmare. It's like wow, okay, great.
And then last question I got for you, which is how I end every single episode, is just why do you love golf? Why has it been such a big part of your life to this point, and why will it continue to be that?
That is such a great question. And like I will try to keep this answer as concise as possible because like genuinely golf is everything to me. Um like growing up and having my first like my genesis moment with golf being like with my dad. And like that was the foundation of our relationship. And I like my best memories are on the golf course with my dad. And then having more recent memories with my brother and like watching him become this incredible person. And but then also like our connections gotten stronger because of it, but then also him allowing me to find purpose within myself like through golf, and like was really the one to be like, hey, like you have to dive back in, like there's no like you're in or you're out, like it's you got to like dive in because this is something that you've always loved. Like genuinely, like golf is, it's brought me my best friends, it's given me a career, it's given me my first and probably, I don't want to say only love, but like golf is my first love. I mean it, it's like it's literally my life, it's my everything. And not to sound like nerdy, like I have other things that I do, but like I don't know, it's that one common thread in everything. I don't know, I'm not a person, I'm not me without golf. And I think it's just it's it's like really cheesy and corny, but yeah, like I it's the thing that I enjoy the most. It's also like the bane of like my existence at times, but ultimately golf has granted me every opportunity I've ever had. And I'm really, really lucky. And I think if there's anything that I could tell people, and like I want people to know who maybe, even if you're already in the space and you already love it, I think always open your mind and your heart to what golf can do for you. And it's like, if you ever think, oh, should I maybe, like, yes, like spend the money on the ticket, go to that dream, like go on that golf trip, spend money on the polo. Like, I think it's always adding to the experience. I think if you really love something, you should always go all in on it. And I think golf is one of those unique things that it can take you literally anywhere. It can connect you with anybody. But more importantly, it can connect you with yourself. I've learned myself through the game. And I think I really do love myself because golf taught me to love myself.
Yeah, that's an awesome answer, and I think the coolest thing about whenever I ask people that question, it's never just one thing that they can point to, like, oh, it's because I get outside or whatever it is. It's always this combination of a bunch of things that makes golf so cool. Well, Addie, thank you so much for joining me on the show. This was a blast. An hour always flies by when you're talking golf. Addie, if folks are interested in some of your work,
Mm.
why don't you just let us know where they can find you, whether that's a website, Instagram, whatever you want to share.
Yeah, so my Instagram's like my main platform. I really do post my life and my thoughts there. And it's just Addie underscore Parker. And then if you're interested in reading my work or the rest of my team's work at Skratch, you can find us at skratch.golf in your web browser. But we also are on Instagram at Skratch. But yeah, that's us. And I honestly, yeah, like I would be nothing without my team, and I have to plug them because we have literally like assembled the Avengers. And I'm very excited to just continue to grow and really just take over the golf world with my besties.
All right. Well, you guys know where to find Addie. Addie, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you everybody for listening. If you made it this far to the end of the episode, and we'll see you next week.
Amazing.